Rebound poked out, grabbed by Hartenstein. Loose ball comes down to Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. Jumper, no good. Rebound down to Murray. 26 seconds left to go in the period. Murray has it up the left sideline. He gets a high pick from Jokic. He rejects that, throws it in the corner over to Porter. Sidestep, kick out three, Jokic. Good.
First shot in the quarter.
Wow. Denver down by 24.
Yeah, that was Jason Kosmiski and Scott Hastings on the call. Welcome to the final in the paint of the season right here on Altitude Sports Radio 92.5. Dan Tanner, Nate Kreckman here to break down the final game of the season for the Nuggets. They fall to the Thunder, Nate, 125-93. All right, so I do want to talk about this game, this series, this season to start here. And then later on in the program, I do want to get into the Nuggets offseason because they have...
Is this kind of an important offseason? Is that what you're telling me?
A massive offseason, and they have so many things that they have to figure out in this offseason. But just this series, Nate, I was surprised that it went 7. Aaron Gordon, what a warrior. Plays with a grade 2 hamstring strain today.
Yeah.
Just overall thoughts on how this playoffs played out and this series played out.
I mean, okay, there's two different ways to approach this, right? Like, ultimately, the Denver Nuggets wasted another year of Nikola Jokic's prime. All right? That's the sad reality of it all. Now, like in the micro of what this year was, this was a good playoff run, right? Like, you beat a really good Clipper team. You took the best team in the NBA to the very limit. You had Porter with the shoulder injury. You have Gordon, now with the hamstring. He was 40% of himself today, and he was battling. My God, what a player. And then you have Jamal Murray with the illness down the stretch, and David Adelman said it. We needed to make 18 threes today. They made 10. Really, they made 7 in the first 3 quarters when the game was in the balance. They were 7 of 33 from 3. The shooting didn't travel. Westbrook had a bad series after having a really good series against the Clippers. Like, when the Thunder went to the bench, they put weapons on the floor. When the Nuggets went to the bench, they put net negative on the floor, and that's how we ended up with this team getting bounced in 7. So, again, like, think of what the conversation was the week before Malone got fired or the day that Malone got fired. The fact that this team had, a run to Game 7 of the second round of the Western Conference playoffs, that's I would call that a little bit of an overachievement. But in the big picture, yeah, it's all bad in Nuggets world because any year you don't win a title with Nikola Jokic is a bad year.
Agreed. And they're going to, like I said, they're going to have a lot of stuff to figure out over this offseason. We'll get into that in just a little bit. We've got DMac on the show. D, welcome to In the Paint.
What
Nuggets,
up, dude?
Nuggets fall in
What's
Game
up, guys?
7. I just asked Nate this, and I'll ask you. Just sort of initial thoughts on this season for the Nuggets and how these playoffs played out in your mind.
Well, I mean, there were a lot of great moments. I don't want to look past that. This one really stings, but I wasn't expecting as thrilling of a playoff run near the end of the season, and there were times when you were losing to the Washington Wizards twice. That
I forgot about that.
Something like this would be ridiculous. So today is obviously incredibly disappointing, and it really is wild. Down 1 point with 3:19 something like that to go, how the whole game could just turn at that moment for whatever reason. Pretty brilliant job by Dagnall realizing that if I put Alex Caruso on Nikola Jokic and just literally foul him constantly, the
Every
referees will only call it once or twice. I mean, pretty brilliant coaching right there. And I have not seen that sort of style, like such a smaller guy who is only going to relentlessly hold on to him. And then you double as soon as Jokic goes in deeper into the lane. So, okay.
Yeah, it's the PJ Tucker defense, the Draymond defense.
Okay.
It's the We've seen smaller guys maybe give Jokic bigger problems than bigger guys, with Zubats as like the lone exception right there. And yeah, you're right about that, DMac. Like, essentially, NBA refs, especially the Scott Foster crew, are just going to be like, well, he's smaller. What do you want him to do? Just let him foul every single time Jokic touches the ball.
It does look preposterous, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it looks so. But there's a theory to what they're doing, because Jokic was getting doubled at a certain point. It wasn't Caruso all the way. That being said, now comes the biggest decision. And if they want to stick with David Adelman, that'd be fine by me. I really was impressed by him. That's cool. But guys, if they are going to blow up the team, and I'd be very curious what you guys think that means, then if that's going to happen, then a coach that knows the old regime doesn't really matter all that much, because you're going to start again. So I think that's the biggest philosophical question. Are you going to blow up the team, and what exactly would that look like? Can you blow up the team?
Right. Well, and that's the thing, DMac. Like, here's the problem that the next general manager of the Nuggets is going to have. They have 4 first-round picks from this year until 2031. They have 4. That's it. So you don't have a whole lot of assets to, reshape this team as significantly as the new GM might want to.
I think they have even fewer second-rounders, too.
Yeah, I mean, their draft assets through 2031
are bad.
Are few and far between. There's no doubt about it,
yeah.
Nate. So
no picks this year, by the way.
0. No picks, no first, no second this year.
Do you know where their first-round pick went this year?
Was it Orlando?
It was the Aaron Gordon trade.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
They moved it in 2021.
Wow. Yeah. It's weird how the NBA works with that, like draft picks that are like 10 years later. I mean, look at the Thunder.
That's what the Thunder did.
And the Nets.
They just got 1 billion of them, and look at how good they are.
I mean, it's absolutely insane. I have seen a lot of suggestions online, fellas, of the Nuggets trading a future first, either 26, 28, 30, or 31 to try and move up into the top 10 in this year's draft. So the question is, you have Nikola Jokic, okay? You do have 4 first-round picks until the 2031 season. Do you go all in again, give up more future assets to try to help Joker now is the question.
I mean, as much as you possibly can. Also,
are you willing to do that, though? Mortgage the future even more?
I think ultimately what this team is going to have to decide is, of the core 4, number one, who is movable, and then which one are you going to move? Like,
right.
Of that group, honestly, and nobody's going to want to hear this, Aaron Gordon is probably your best trade asset.
Or Christian Brown.
That you have. Well, Christian Brown's got a contract coming up, though, so you got to figure out what you're doing with him. But with Aaron Gordon, like, that might be your most movable piece. Like, Porter's still got 2 years left on his deal. And I don't know if any other team in the NBA is going to pass him on a physical. And Jamal's extension only kicks in this year. I don't think anyone wants to trade for a 4-year max. Typically, teams want to, give out their own maxes to guys. They don't necessarily want to acquire yours in order to send back multiple pieces. Like, the Nuggets are I'm not saying nothing can be done. There's just not a lot of really easy, obvious solutions to how to fix this. Like, the solution may very well be, hey, what if we could just go into a postseason and our core 4 just stays healthy, and then we see what we could actually do if that were to happen.
Well, what do you think their regular season record, how many wins do you think that would get you? It'd get you in the playoffs, but how many do you think it would get you?
If they came back with the same core?
Yeah.
They could be a top 4 seed in the West again.
Yeah, they can get 50 again.
Yeah,
anytime you have Joker, I think you can get 50.
Yeah.
Well, listen, if you can be a top 4 seed again, then you probably just rinse and repeat if it's that difficult. And by the way, that evaluation.
I agree with that, because I think the changes are going to be made more around the periphery than to the team's actual core.
And you do get a virtual first-round pick. You do. I'm rolling my eyes at it. But theoretically, Deron Holmes will be, healthy, right?
That's not nothing.
It's something. I mean, that will be your draft pick that you will get to contribute. I don't know, man. Are there other guys that just will develop? Listen, they got their butts kicked. I thought the refereeing was ridiculous on Jokic, the whole thing. But the truth of the matter, and it's not by a lot, but Oklahoma City was better. And that stings to say, stings to admit, but they were better. Okay. I was more disappointed that when given the opportunity today, Julian Strawther and Peyton Watson were a couple of donuts in terms of production.
Terrible.
And it's like, guys, here we go. Like, this is it. You've got the right amount of time on the team, the right amount of experience, the right opportunity. We got to have something here, and you get that from Wallace, and you get that from, Caruso is next level. I don't know what we can do for
Wiggins
a guy like
gave
Caruso.
the Thunder a lot of three-point shooting this series.
Yeah, okay. It's like, that's frustrating to me. Losing is losing, but it's frustrating that two guys that you were really hoping could be something. And listen, I get it. You need better from Jamal Murray. You need better from Michael Porter Jr. But what about those two guys? And we were so optimistic about Strawther, but I'm not surprised he couldn't put it together back-to-back. Are you guys?
This series, no, not at all. Julian Strawther, the biggest thing that guy needs is he needs a full season of being a healthy basketball player. Like, he needs to play. He needs to have a cemented spot in the rotation. He's got to make mistakes. He has to be shown what he's doing wrong defensively. He's lost on the defensive end of the floor. I think the zone helped him out a little bit in this series, but he's lost out there. He needs to figure out what he's doing right there. Peyton Watson has to develop some semblance of an offensive game. I don't know why that guy can't make a shot to save his life. You don't want possessions ending in above-the-break threes from Peyton Watson, and they were ending up with them. But, that's another guy that just, has to play as a third-year guy, and he's had health issues, but he's just got to play and develop into being an NBA player. The playoffs are not made for young players. They're not. Yeah. Their weaknesses get picked at and exposed so much over a 7-game series. The Thunder's coaching staff is just going to look there and be like, okay, this is how we beat Peyton Watson. This is how we beat Julian Strawther. And, young guys like that, they have no adjustment. They have no answer on plays like that. And guys, this all kind of comes back to, and we're sort of talking in circles here, but this all comes back to, Malone's lack of trust in playing the young players and then developing the young players, but Calvin Booth also not giving him good young players that the coach is then going to trust. And, I don't know, they all just got fired, and now the team has to figure out what they have to do going forward. And meanwhile, the Oklahoma City Thunder and Sam Presti have built something up in which those players are developed within a system where there is synergy between he and Dagenalt, and they develop and they turn into good NBA players. And that's why the Thunder are moving on and the Nuggets are going home. It's almost as though this thing was such a disaster, they should have, fired the coach and GM with a week to go in the season.
Well, and that's going to be the next step for this team, guys, when hiring the next GM. Look, I don't – we can get into who it's going to be. I don't know who it's going to be. People are throwing out Bob Myers. Okay, that's a name everyone knows because he helped build the Warriors dynasty, but I don't know. Nate's right.
He's on TV and he's got cool hair.
Nate's right, though. The most important next step for this organization is to get the GM and the head coach on the same page, right? Look at what we saw happen with the Denver Broncos. Everybody at first said, how's the Peyton dynamic going to work? Well, it turns out, at least according to them, they get along great. And when it comes to the draft, they seem to not have any issues of players, no controversy in the room. So I do think that will be the next step as far as the organization's concerned. But when it comes to the lack of depth on the Nuggets, guys, again, I go back to they don't have a lot of assets to help in the now. But can a guy like Julian Strawther take that next step next season? Can he be a guy that helps add depth to this team? What about Jalen Pickett?
Right.
Is his role going to be expanded next year? What does that look like?
Another guy that just has to play.
Does a new head coach even want to play the old regime's guys? These are all questions that are going to have to be answered this offseason.
Well, you're dancing around the big question, and what do you do about Russell Westbrook? And
well, he's got a player option for next season. So it really depends on what Russ wants to do.
If he's your sixth man, you got – listen, I don't hate Russ. I do not hate Russ. But they were relying way too much on him so many times this entire year. And like you said, force of nature. Sometimes it's great. Sometimes it's not. He needs to be the seventh guy. You need to have a more reliable dude. I'm not against Russell Westbrook necessarily, but there's got to be some deep thought that goes into that one.
Okay, so we're allowed to do this because the team just got bounced out of the playoffs, and there's no bad questions right now, right?
Yeah.
I'll ask both of you guys this. I'll start with you, Dan, and then DMac chime in. Was it wrong to not go into the second apron and to let KCP walk?
In the Jokic era, when you have the best player in the team's history, a player that we will most likely not see again in our lifetimes, I would say yes.
Yeah. DMac?
It looks bad now. Hey, let's bring
Sure
up
does.
the Miko Rantanen. Bring up the Miko Rantanen trade while we're at it.
But
It looks bad now. Yeah,
It really does. And, look, I know, look at KCP's year with Orlando. It's not like he was gangbusters or anything like that.
He was good,
but we also know, what KCP was here and what he was when he played with Nikola Jokic. And I know there's a faction of people that will hear that question and will just go, well, Christian Brown was great. You're right. Christian Brown was great. But you could have had them both. You could have had Christian Brown as your first guy off the bench, and suddenly how much better does that look like? DMac is talking about you can't have Westbrook as a sixth man. Christian Brown's a hell of a lot better sixth man than Russell Westbrook is. You bring that energy and defense out onto the floor, and maybe you're a different basketball team right there. And again, the Nuggets stayed out of the second apron because they wanted to maintain flexibility, but then they didn't do anything at the trade deadline anyway. They didn't make a move. So ultimately, whatever flexibility that bought you in the middle of Jokic's prime, was that actually a benefit to what the end goal is, which is to win an NBA championship?
Right. Well, what was the flexibility it afforded the team? I don't even see really what that did per se. You know what I mean?
Right.
You're right, Nate. They didn't end up doing anything. And like I mentioned earlier, guys, they have, 4 first-round picks over the next 7 years. So the flexibility problem, that's going to be a thing where every GM that's interviewing for the position is going to say, wait, how many first-round picks do we have over the next 7 years? What does the contract situation look like for this team? What does the salary cap situation look like for this team? Look, I'm not trying to be doom and gloom here because DMac, you say this all the time. There's always something you can do, right? But I think at the end of the day, if they are going to do something major, one of the 4, I'll say one of the 3 because Jokic isn't going anywhere. One of the 3, or we could count 4 with Christian Brown, is probably going to be gone before the start of next season.
Is Porter tradable?
For a late second-round pick, sure.
But you got to make
honestly.
No, but you got to do a salary match. You have to be able to move him to another team, and you'll get back assets. You have to make the salary match work.
What team? What team? Give me a team
that's just it.
Right.
Who? That's what I don't know is who will value that player. It sucks so much because he had one great game in this series, and they won that game, and he wasn't able to recreate it, and his shoulder was messed up. In all seriousness, that guy, his toughness, his resilience, his spirit, I think he's a critical part of that locker room. I think he's very respected by his teammates. I think he's well-liked by his teammates. He is a good guy to have in the room. The problem is it's ultimately in pro sports, what kind of bang are you getting for your buck, and you just don't get enough out of Mike.
I think he'll be back. I don't know what you're going to get that would be anywhere close to the equal value of what you're paying him, and I'm trying to rack my brain here.
Right.
Right. I mean, it's got to be some he's such a luxury item, and you got to pay so much money for that luxury item. I mean, would the Pacers want him? I don't know. Would the Knicks want him? Well, they got some salary problems coming up themselves.
That'd be really good for Mike. Have Thibs play him 44 minutes a night. That'd be good for his body.
All right, guys, we got to hit a break.
That's a tough question. Yeah.
DMac, really appreciate you jumping on, man.
Fun season. By the way, bases loaded, 2 outs. Michael Toglia in a 1-0 game hits a bullet that would have put the Rockies up, and it lands. It was a bullet. Lands right in the shortstop's glove. So they scored 14 runs last night. They scored 0 runs tonight. And Chase Dollander He's a good pitcher, guys.
Good.
Chase
He's good.
Butler is a good pitcher. I just
Hit
want to
3
let you,
hits.
they lost. Well,
3 hits.
okay, I'll see you guys.
All right, DMac, appreciate it. All right, Nate, I'm going to ask you a question.
All right.
And we'll answer it on the other side when we get back.
They call it a tease in the biz. Dan, what do you got for me?
Will Jamal Murray be a Denver Nugget at the start of next season? We'll get to that next.
Westbrook looks in. Inbound to Jokic, guarded by Caruso at the bend. Now he's double teamed, kicks it out over to Westbrook. Westbrook's in the paint. Over to Murray, head fake and a drive, wing jumper. That one's good. Nuggets are within one, 42-41. Timeout, Mark Daignault. 3:10 left to go in the first half. Nuggets are down a point.
Well, that was the last time the Nuggets were down a point in this game as they fall to the Thunder. 125-93 is the final. The Nuggets did win the first quarter.
They did. They were up 5.
They were up 26-21 after the first
In
quarter.
fact, they were up 26-16.
Wow.
At one point in that first quarter, the Thunder won the second quarter 39-20.
Woo!
So basically the last 13 minutes of the first half, 44-20, the Thunder outscored the Nuggets. First half, by the way, the bench, Westbrook was a -23, P. Watt was a -21, Strawther was a -8. David Adelman started the second quarter with a lineup of Russ, Strawther, CB, Watson, and AG on one leg. So Jamal played the entire first quarter, so Adelman was trying to steal him rest right at the start of the second quarter. The Thunder immediately ripped off a 6-0 run, took the lead, and basically led for the rest of the game. That was a massive error on the part of David Adelman to have a lineup without Jokic or Murray on the floor in Game 7 of a playoff series to start the second quarter. The lead was immediately given away by the numbers in this series. Non-Jamal Murray minutes were way worse than non-Nikola Jokic minutes.
You know, it's interesting, Nate. In Game 6, Adelman rested Jamal with, I think, around 4 minutes to go in the first quarter.
Yeah.
So it is – and I was wondering if that was just because he was sick. But if you listen to Adelman after the game today, he said he was still just as sick as he was on Thursday night. So that was a curious decision as to why he didn't decide to take Jamal out earlier in the first quarter like he did in Game 6.
It was weird, and I don't know if the AG injury just kind of messed up the rotation. The first sub – let's see, the first sub.
That's a good point.
The
Aaron Gordon stuff did throw a wrench into the rotations.
Westbrook for MPJ at 5:07. AG was still in. P. Watt came in at 4:08 for Aaron Gordon. AG was plus 11 in the first quarter. So Jamal Murray played all 12 minutes of the first quarter, and he was not particularly good in those 12 minutes. You asked me before the break, will Jamal Murray be a Denver Nugget?
Or should he be at the start of next season?
Yeah,
either one.
100%. He should and he will. Yeah, 100%. There's Jamal Murray's not going anywhere. Jamal Murray, first off, his extension only kicks in next year.
Sure.
Like his 4-year contract extension. So, number one, it's not super tradable. And number two, yes, he should be a Nugget. He's the second best player on this team. He's the only player that can consistently get his own shot. Yes, Jamal Murray should be on this team.
Well, the reason I ask that question is, number one, I mean, you're right. It wouldn't be easy to trade him, but I do think he has value in a trade. But, Nate, the issues that I've been talking about on this show all season long all sort of just came to a fruition today and were laid out on a silver platter. The lack of perimeter defense, the lack of depth, and my biggest pet peeve of the season by far is the turnovers.
Yeah.
There's way too many. So I guess my point in asking you,
and
should Jamal be here next year?
Make sure you know, too, the Thunder force more turnovers than anybody in the NBA, and on this day they had no whistles going against them.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a fair point. But the Nuggets were turning it over left and right in the Clippers series also. And they've this team just has an innate ability to turn the ball over at really bad times.
Far too consistent.
And when Russ came in throughout these playoffs, he would turn it over way too much. So that's kind of, I get it. But
did Jamal elevate to typical
We never got a playoff Murray game in this series. We got one against the Clippers.
We got one in the Clippers series. No, and this the combination of Lou Dort and Alex Caruso was tough for him to have to deal with in this series. For this series, for the entire playoffs, Jamal averaged 22 points on 44, 35, 88 shooting splits, 5 assists, and 5 rebounds in the postseason.
Did you say 24 points?
22 points.
22 in the playoffs or this series? Okay.
In the playoffs. Is what he averaged in the balance of the postseason over the 14 games. So basically, what Jamal Murray gave you was the regular season version of himself, which is still very good. It just didn't elevate in this postseason.
It's very good, but it's not good enough for a team with this, depleted of a roster to succeed past round 2 in the playoffs.
Exactly. And I mean, the Gordon injury, the Porter injury, all of those things. Yeah, Jamal Murray, he wasn't great enough to elevate all of it.
Let me ask you this question. Okay, I'm just throwing this out there. If a team offered you a top 10 pick in this year's draft and maybe a sort of later depth piece for Jamal Murray,
well, again,
are you considering
you got to make
that?
You got to make salaries match.
Sure.
So it's you would assume that somebody would give you like a salary dump player, like a good uprising youngster, and a draft pick. That wouldn't be enough for me to move Jamal Murray now.
Even a top 10?
No.
Okay.
If I was looking, because I don't think this team wants to add youth. I don't think adding youth is the answer right now for the Denver Nuggets. I think if you could tell me you could take Jamal Murray's, let's see,
I get it, but I'm trying to add depth.
If you took Jamal Murray's $46 million salary for next year and split that up into two solid veterans, if you could give me a good 3-and-D and a banging kind of power forward to lighten the load on Aaron Gordon and maybe lighten the load and play some backup five behind Nikola Jokic, absolutely, I'd be interested in that. I don't think right now adding first-round picks is what this team needs. This team needs veterans. This is right now what the Nuggets need is they need pieces in Jokic's prime to be able to help immediately, not help them win 3 years from now.
Then you're going to have to trade 1 or 2 or 3 or all 4 of those future first-round picks until 2031.
Probably.
I mean, what other answer is there?
Right.
Like, how else would you build out this team with veterans other than trading some of your future assets? And look, we're in the Jokic era, okay? Like, I'm fine if that's the route they want to go. In fact, I would actually say they have to go that route.
Yeah.
Because you cannot hang on to future assets.
Do you have the chart of their future first?
Yeah, I got it up here. It's right here.
Put that in front of me real quick.
So this is their incoming.
Okay, because as of right now, I believe either the 30 or the 31 pick are the only ones that are actually tradable right now. Because I don't think you're not allowed to go more than you have to have a first round pick at least every other year. Is the way that the trade rules work in the NBA.
Okay, well,
so
that would
26
make sense.
and 28 you can't move. Obviously, they moved this year's. They already moved the 27 first-round pick and the 29 first-round pick. So it would have to be, I think, either the 31 might be the only movable one that you have. So
wow.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not great.
Good luck to the new GM of the Nuggets, everybody.
It's not great, Bob. Yeah.
I mean, look at all these outgoing picks. Look at this.
Yeah. It's not great.
This is wild.
No, and they like moving 3 second-rounders to get rid of Reggie Jackson.
Yeah.
Like those kind of mistakes just they come back to roost right now when this team needs to be able to move assets. Like, first off, you had an interesting tweet about Russell Westbrook. I want you to read that.
Yeah, so this is from Vinny from the Denver Post. Tried to get Russell Westbrook in the locker room to see if
Vinny's with the Gazette, by the way.
Oh, the Gazette, my bad. If he had a decision on his player option for next season. He looked at his watch and asked what I was wearing tomorrow. When I said I didn't know, he said exactly and walked off. He adds that the Nuggets are not doing exit interviews.
So you're not doing exit interviews because you don't know who your coach is, right? So you can't do exit interviews, so that's confusing. I'm assuming Jokic's jet for Sombor is leaving at 6 a.m. tomorrow.
He might be flying out of OKC.
Seriously, he may not have even gone back to Denver. So that's a possibility as well. Basically what Westbrook is saying is, I don't know if I'm going to be back in Denver or not.
Do you want him back next year? Let me ask it this way: do you think
not really? No.
Do you think he has value and can impact winning next season for the Nuggets?
Probably not, no. And maybe it's recency bias because he had such a bad series against the Thunder right in front of me. But, by the time it was all said and done, the Russell Westbrook experience was weird because it kind of worked here for a while. There were points of this season
it worked in spurts
where Jokic and Westbrook were like the best two-man game statistically in the NBA, even better than Jokic and Murray were at various points. And then it went a little bit south. It culminated with the disaster that happened against Minnesota, but he bounced back. He had a good series against the Clippers. He had a bad series against the Thunder. Do the Nuggets need to be able to take Jalen Pickett and turn him into a viable backup NBA point guard? I'd like to see what that would look like. I really would. Now you got to be able to decide, does Pickett have it on the defensive end of the floor? Is he a switchy enough defender? He can guard players that are bigger than him. He's pretty strong. So he's got that part of his game going on. I'd like to see a little bit of what his future looks like. Ultimately, though, I really think as I sit here today, and I'm not saying for better or for worse or for right or for wrong, Dan, but what I think what's going to happen with this team is the core four and Christian Brown will all be back. You'll have the same starting five next season that you had this year. The changes need to be made in terms of the depth pieces and a world where the Nuggets could get to a viable, usable 10 or 11 players on their team.
And kind of taking the optimistic view of this team next year, a healthy Aaron Gordon, a healthy Jamal Murray. You've got Christian Brown, who's emerging as one of the best two-way players in the game. That was cool to see this year.
Yep.
If that's all the case, and a healthy Michael Porter Jr., you're right, man, they still do have one of the best starting fives in the NBA. In fact, the Nuggets starting five throughout this series was significantly better than the Thunder starting five overall. But, again, it all goes to who are going to be the 3 or 4 guys coming off the bench. And I'm not even talking about in the regular season next year.
Right.
Who are going to be those 3 or 4 guys? In fact, who are going to be those 2 guys that can come off the bench? Who's going to be your Bruce Brown and who's going to be your Christian Brown from 2023 in the postseason next year? I think that's what the Nuggets need to figure out.
Listen to this, okay? This is from CBS. Sam Quinn wrote this, and he wrote it before the game, and he just posted it immediately as soon as the game ended. Toss out the Game 2 blowout in Game 7. Games 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6, those were the games that were in the balance in this series, right? Denver starters outscored the Thunder by 50 points. Any lineup featuring any other player for the Nuggets, any single substitute that they put out onto the floor was outscored by 39.
Wow.
The moment you moved away from your top 5 is when you lost in this series. That's on the GM who was fired. That's on roster construction. That's on Michael Malone, and again, Malone had his reasons. Booth had his reasons for doing it the way that he did. They never had a singular vision, and no kind of cohesive bench was ever developed for this team, and that's how we end up in this situation where the Thunder, an actual deep team, they move on, and the Nuggets are going home.
Yeah, and you and I were talking during the game. Calvin Booth was obviously fired for a reason.
Very much so. I would say several of them.
He made a lot of mistakes. He did. Now, he also had some positive things while he was here. He drafted Christian Brown. He was the one that signed Bruce Brown and KCP that led to a Nuggets championship. Now, I still give Tim Connolly the majority of the credit for that title because he's the one that drafted Nikola Jokic.
But
he's the one that traded.
He was in that front office as well, and you're right about that. Like, he made the right moves around the periphery to put the team over the top to win a championship in 2023.
Well, while the foundation was there.
He also made the wrong moves around the periphery to get to a point where 24 and 25 happened.
Yeah, I mean, he was good in the draft. He was decent in free agency. And when it came to the contract stuff is where he struggled.
Yeah.
I mean, is that a fair characterization of Calvin Booth's tenure in Denver?
I think you're giving him more credit in the draft than I probably would. Yeah, but ultimately it's like the Zeke Naji contract. That's just it's a bad look. And it's made – that mistake was compounded by – Naji never becoming a viable NBA player and being tradable. Think about this, okay? Like, Zeke Naji's contract, just the contract, wasn't that bad, okay? Like, the Nuggets are a weird payroll where they have, like, all these max guys and Aaron Gordon who's just, like a rung on the ladder below the max, and then it's, like, nothing. And it's, like, really to facilitate quality NBA trades, you need like those sort of movable middle ground contracts, and the Nuggets didn't have any of those. Like, Zeke's contract kind of fell into that slot. Now, if Zeke Naji could have become a viable, playable NBA rotation player, or at least showed the potential to be that, and some other team scouting department and GM was looking at that guy and was saying, oh, I'd like to have him. I could see a vision for what that player could become. Zeke would have been very tradable. The problem was that Zeke didn't become that guy, and so then you could never trade him, and now the contract looks bad because you're paying money. He was, the fifth highest paid player on the team this year?
Yep, fifth highest.
And he didn't play, and that doesn't look good.
I think their vision, Nate, may have been that they have struggled so mightily, and this is another thing I've complained about over the years. They have struggled so mightily in finding a legitimate backup center to Nikola Jokic. I'm not asking for a guy that can come in and dominate the game when Joker's off the floor. Can they get somebody like a Mason Plumlee? He was a perfect backup center to Nikola Jokic, which, in hindsight is funny. You know who the perfect backup center for the Nuggets would have been?
Mason Plumlee?
Isaiah Hartenstein. Who was in Denver.
Who was here, yeah.
He wasn't this good when he was with the Nuggets.
No, and credit to Hartenstein,
He's
who
gotten
developed
much better.
Yeah, really without a doubt. It's one of the reasons why I would like to see Adelman get a look at this is Adelman made a comment, and it was early in this series, a comment to the point of, everything that we do on the floor is built around, what we do with Jokic. And when you take him out, the team just gets lost. And this team, it's such a weird – it goes to show you how slim the margins are in the NBA. That, you can really point to those minutes, those, down to the 7-minute mark of the second quarter, down to the 8-minute mark of the fourth quarter, and you can point to those minutes and say that's where the Denver Nuggets lose basketball games because that's when Nikola Jokic leaves the floor. A Jamal Murray-led second unit, for whatever reason, has never completely found its footing. Too many possessions end with the ball just getting chucked back to Jamal with 5 on the shot clock and him have to throw up some wild shot. And sometimes he makes them and bails out those bad possessions, and other times he misses them. But those lineups never have been able to find a consistent identity, and Adelman said that out loud, and I was glad to hear him say that. Somebody that has sat and watched this team and has coached this team and has been a part of trying to solve those issues, I would like to see him be able to call the shots on that.
All right, when we come back, let's get more into David Adelman. Should he be named the permanent head coach of the Denver Nuggets? And then I've got a couple more questions in regards to what do we see over this offseason. This is Nate, this is one of the biggest offseasons that I can ever remember for the Denver Nuggets. They have a lot of stuff.
I think we said that last year, too.
It's even more so this year. They've got a lot of stuff to figure out, and we'll dive into that next. You're listening to In the Paint with Nate Kreckman and Dan Tanner right here on Altitude Sports Radio 92.5. Yeah, the Nuggets season is over after a Game 7 loss to the Oklahoma City Thunder, 125-93. You know, Nate, going into this series, I did pick the Nuggets to win this series.
Look at you.
Because
I had Thunder in 6.
I had the Nuggets in 6.
So I was optimistic about, hey, they got to 7.
Yeah, well, so they overachieved based on your prediction.
They did,
That's
yes,
good. That's
yes.
good. The reason I picked the Nuggets was because of their experience. That was kind of my whole thing of like, man, how many times did we see the younger version of the Jokic-era Nuggets have to go through the ringer in the playoffs? And look, it's still not over for the Thunder. They have to get through a tough Minnesota team. That'll be a really interesting series to see play out.
Yeah, I would say the experience is why they won games 1 and 3.
Yeah, and then the depth. The depth was so pronounced, the gap in these teams, that's really what, in my opinion, ultimately is why the Thunder ended up winning this series was because of their massive amounts of depth.
Yeah, and you know, Game 4, you know, the bench kind of killed you a little bit. Wallace and Wiggins kind of killed you a little bit in Game 4, and Game 5 was just the Lou Dort game. Lou Dort made a bunch of threes in the fourth quarter.
Does he have the highest arcing shot in NBA history, by the way? Like, that is insane.
It's a very high arcing shot. You got that right.
Yeah, it goes in for him. So, you know, if it works for him, it works for him. All right, Nate, let's just recap some quick hitters for the offseason before we get out of here. Will David Adelman be named the permanent head coach? Now, remember, Josh Kroenke, after they fired Malone, said that they are going to do a full and extensive head coaching search.
As well they should.
Of course they should.
Yeah.
Now, will that include David Adelman? I'm sure he'll get an interview.
Yeah.
I mean, I would be shocked if he didn't. But at this point, with Malone being gone, if you're the ownership group, do you want to just see a fresh face in that role, fresh ideas? Hey, let's try it this way.
Yeah.
Maybe like work on the perimeter deep. I don't know. But would you rather see a guy that the team is comfortable with in David Adelman, or do you think they need to bring in somebody new? Hey, let's get some fresh new ideas in the building.
That's a great question. I think Adelman did very well for himself over the 14 games coaching this group in the postseason. He did not bat 1,000. There were mistakes that were made. God, he almost blew Game 1, taking Jokic off the floor. Obviously, we remember that. I criticized his lineup decision earlier today here in Game 7. He wasn't perfect by any stretch, but I thought, by and large, he did well for himself. He stepped into a difficult situation. He breathed some new life into this thing, and this team was able to make a run and play 14 playoff games. I think David Adelman should get a very, very long look, but also the Nuggets need to interview everybody.
Yeah.
I think the Nuggets really need to interview everybody. Same goes with the front office. Now, it's possible that the Nuggets will simply promote somebody from within, but I think this team they owe it to everybody. They owe it to Nikola Jokic. Do a full-on search. Yeah,
you're right. This really centers around how do we maximize the next 5 to 6 years of the prime years of Nikola Jokic. That's what the centerpiece of every single decision this offseason should be made around. Now, I don't want to get into specific names for GM because the only one I really know of is Bob Myers, and I'm sure a lot of you listening, that's really the only big name out there. But just as far as philosophy for a new GM, do you want to see them value draft picks? Do you want to see them wait until they see players perform before deciding to sign them to, a big extension?
Like I want to see them value immediate moves that can be made to bolster the roster right now with veterans around Nikola Jokic.
So whatever assets this team has, you want the new GM to utilize everything at his disposal as far as the available assets go for the Nuggets.
You're in a championship window. You go full Les Snead, F them picks, and you
They've
you
basically
build a winner.
kind of already done that,
like they don't really have any picks to
They've kind of already done that.
Anymore. Yeah. You're right about that.
They don't have any more picks to bleed. They got a couple. They got a couple in 5 years.
A few more.
In 6 years.
Yes.
Okay, so I agree with you. Like, we're on the same page there. This is the Jokic era. He's going to be the best player in franchise history, at least in our lifetimes. Who knows? But you got to go all in. Russell Westbrook, player option for next year. Do you want to see him back?
Not really. No,
okay.
I'm good.
Michael Porter Jr. Now
and I'm not saying it was a complete and total bust with Westbrook, but also we've seen what the ceiling looks like with Russ now at age 36.
And I think DMac kind of hit the nail on the head. Like, if Russ is the 7th or 8th guy next year, okay, sure. Yeah. But if he's your 6th guy, that's going to be a tough sell. Now, the Michael Porter Jr. thing is weird, Nate, because
it's a tough trade to make.
It's very tough. Now, on the optimistic side for Michael, when he's healthy and he's on, he is one of the best three-point shooters in the NBA.
In the world, yes.
He really is.
He is that, and he also plays every single night.
Which, for a guy who has had, 2 or 3 back surgeries, drop foot.
It's incredible.
It is amazing.
Yeah, it really is incredible.
All of the off-court stuff with his family, the fact that he's been able to get through all of that is unbelievable.
I'm assuming he'll have surgery in the next couple of days, I would think.
On his shoulder.
And then, and then probably begin his – or maybe they'll tell him that this can, be handled through rehab and everything else. I don't know exactly what a dislocated AC joint needs, but I'm assuming surgery is probably what you do for Porter, and then hopefully he recovers and he comes back next year.
Yeah, that's the hope.
He's just really hard to trade.
Yeah, with the contract, with the injury past, he would be a very tough trade. And even if they were able to.
What's so funny about fan reaction to this team is it's like, get Jamal out of here, get Porter out of here, get all these bums out of here.
It's not that simple.
It's not that simple. They have contracts, and, hey, rip the team for signing those contracts all you want. That's totally fair, but we have to talk about the roster that's right in front of us.
Okay, last thing, heading into the offseason. Can Julian Strawther be a guy to take that next step, kind of like we saw with Christian Brown this year?
Yeah.
Can he be one of the in-house pieces to add depth to this team? And same question for Jalen Pickett. Can he be integrated more into the regular bench minute rotation for next year? Can those be two guys that – is it possible for the Nuggets to get more depth on their team in-house to where they don't have to go out and do a bunch of trades and give up a bunch of draft picks?
I really believe the answer is yes to both those questions.
Okay.
I really do. Yeah. I really think both those guys can help you, but this team needs more solid veterans. This group needs more solid veterans. I know everybody in the world wants 3-and-D guys, but the Nuggets really need veteran 3-and-D guys.
Absolutely. And KCP was here, and then
he was.
And he wasn't.
He sure was. He sure was.
All right, that's going to do it for the post-game show, everybody. Thank you so much for listening all season long. The Nuggets fall in 7 games in round 2 to the Oklahoma City Thunder. It's going to be an absolutely wild offseason. I am actually really looking forward to seeing what this team does as far as the new head coach, the new GM. A lot of question marks surrounding the Nuggets, and we'll see what they decide to do. But that's going to do it for the post-game show, everybody. For Nate Kreckman.
Great job by Dan
Dixon.
Tanner all
Thank you very
season
much.
long.
Every
well
game.
Done.
That's 82 plus 14.
Well
I'm
done,
too tired
man.
to do the math, but really do appreciate everybody following along
96.
and riding with me. 96 games this year. And we'll be back coming up in October.
All right.
October, we'll be back. That's going to do it for the post-game show, everybody. You've been listening to In the Paint right here on Altitude Sports Radio.